Very good. It's 1 o'clock, so we will begin the EDIC meeting for today. It's August 26th. We have 3 items on the agenda, and Jim added one more, I believe. And so we will begin with number 1, approve the EDIC meeting minutes of the 7/22/25 meeting. We have that in front of us. If there were any changes or corrections, otherwise, could we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or changes? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, the Bison Lodge pilot request. And Jim Gilmore will get us started.
Good, thank you. This is a request for a payment in lieu of taxes incentive. The property is on the northwest corner of 11th Avenue North and 17th Street North. You can see the general location. This is 18th Street University. The Skyline project is going up here. That was one that Roars had, was approved recently. This is a little closer view of it. You can see there's 2 lots. There's just, right now it's a concrete slab here from, I think there was a garage there. And we have a vacant single-family house here and garage behind. You know, this redevelopment is kind of similar to some others in the area. I believe this developer has managing these units where you have a lot of driveways, you know, that come into the building. This was a common redevelopment that happened probably, 10 years ago. The current developer put together this PowerPoint to show some information on the site, and this is the garage that's on the back of the property. So it would be nice to get, you look at the condition of this property. It would be nice to get this cleared out and redeveloped. You can see the condition of the garage. I'll just go through these quickly. I think particularly when you get into the inside, the the ability to rehab this house seems to be beyond what would be economically feasible. This picture of the outside. So their conclusions is that house is not probably physically able to be restored or economically makes any sense right now. It would be nice to clear that out. And then this is the proposal for the townhomes that would be developed here. We did have our financial advisor review this, and that came with a recommendation that this would meet the but-for test. At your last meeting, you had recommended that we change this core neighborhood policy, so it would be 100% exemption for 7 years. That's sort of works out to be about the same as when I say about the same, it's actually slightly less than the previous 100% for 10 and 50% for 10. So I don't know, do we have Matt on?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay, Matt,
Good afternoon.
Why don't you give your conclusion, Matt Schachtenberg from PFM.
Sure, good afternoon, everyone. We ran our normal kind of analysis that we do here. One thing that I wanted to point out that is a little bit different than this is on the equity side. So when we see equity going into the projects, it's generally cash equity. In this case, the equity comes in the form of a loan on a life insurance policy of one of the applicant's parents. That money was used, that's about $275,000. The applicant stated that money was used to purchase the land. And then if more equity is required from the bank, then the same parents have stated that they will loan the money to the applicants. That will all depend on the on the appraised valuation of the land once that's done. So getting back to, we put together a 10-year pro forma, and we look at two basic metrics, one being the return on the equity, and in this case, we used the $275,000. We assume that was the equity. And then we also look at debt service coverage. So the results for this development, without public assistance, we're looking at estimating a 4.24% internal rate of return. And then with public assistance, looking at the new policy at the 7 years, 100% pilot, we're looking at 8.85%. Again, typically for something like this, we'd be looking at something between 10 and 15%. So it actually still falls, even with assistance, it still falls under that. The applicants did state, I had some correspondence back and forth, and then had a nice conversation with them as well, where I got a lot of details here. They are looking to hold this as a long-term investment. They are younger developers, and they want to hold on to this and have it in the family. For coverage, debt service coverage, we also look at that without assistance, looking at year 4 coverage, that's under 1 times coverage, so they wouldn't be able to pay back the loan. And then in year 10 has the maximum debt service coverage ratio of 1.3 times. And then under the new policy, it's estimated to be 1.11 times in year 4, and that same max of 1.3 times in year 10. The 1.1 times, even with public assistance, that is on the lower side. Usually we see at least a 1.2 times coverage. The applicant stated that the bank is comfortable with this. It's more of a relationship, banking relationship that the applicant and their parents have. It's a lot of business that the parents have done with this bank, and they are also in this business of development and rental management in the Twin Cities. So even with public assistance, it's still in the range or really below the range, under the maximum we'd like to see for a development like this. So happy to take any questions.
Very good. Do we have any questions?
Go
ahead, John.
Just one. In your discussion, the equity that's coming in is 13% of the loan value. Do I have that correct?
It's 13% of the total project. So we're estimating the land at the 275, and then the building at 1.8 million. And they have not gone out for bid yet, so we don't know. It seems that the 1.8 is probably maximum, but that's still TBD.
John, just for the recording now, if you can hit your mic, get that on the button on the right side.
It's green. I guess I'm not talking loud enough. What's standard equity? I know they're all over the board. 13 seems.
Yeah. A lot of times the banks will want to see a minimum of 20%.
Okay, but so you have that set up through other means if it has to increase, correct?
Yep, there is a loan that they have set up through the parents. If they do need additional equity from the bank, they will get it from the parents. It really will depend on the valuation of the land. So if the land comes back at at 400,000, as an appraised value of $400,000, that's going to be a higher percentage of the total. Right now, we can only base it on the purchase price, which was the 275.
Okay.
So it may be a higher percentage that the bank would be willing to accept without additional equity.
Okay. And if you ran your analysis at 20% equity, would that change any of the outcomes?
It would. I would need to know what the total cost of the project was, though. But it would lower the return percentages, since they have more money put up front into it.
All right, thank you.
Any other, John, go ahead.
The only other thing is if you put more equity into as well, it's going to improve the debt service coverage ratio. Historically, I've always seen it anywhere between 20% for non-owner occupied, or I'm sorry, 25% for non-owner occupied or investment property, and typically 20% for owner occupied. It's typically what a bank is going to look for. And then a 1.2 debt service coverage before distributions. And that's the bare minimum in most cases.
That's right. It would improve perhaps, again, depending on what the cost of the project ultimately is, it could improve the debt service coverage and the 1.2 times coverage, unless I've seen in one or two other instances where there's the relationship and it's all about the relationship, then the bank is willing to go lower than the 1.2 times coverage.
Anything else to add? Any questions? Lucas?
Maybe we could have the developers come up, Nick and Betsy, and they can kind of give us, or
If
give
you want to
you
come
their
up
vision of it.
if you want to come up and use those two microphones and just introduce yourselves, that'd be great. Thank you.
Do I need to touch anything? Oh, live.
You're good. First off, I'm Nicholas Yanis Rich, and this is my wife Betsy Yanis Rich. We're owners and operators of Bison Run Rentals LLC, and we did talk to Bruce, our lender down in Merchants Bank in Hastings, Minnesota, and he's very comfortable with the 20% down, and so on and so forth. Basically, we're just requesting the pilot program. We think it's critical for this build, and the community benefits on it, just cleaning up the area, making it, we want this project to be feasible for both us and the city. So whatever you guys, want to do, whether, the 7 years at 100%, 5 years at, 100, and then the other 5 at 50, and, so on and so forth. However you guys want to structure that would be good.
Yeah, we're just, we manage the property right across the street. We've seen this land for 5 years now since we've opened our company. And my parents own the property right across the street that we manage. And what we do is very much a family business. So they have our back in helping out this project. I know it has some low returns, but this pilot program would really help.
Any other questions? I would say, obviously, by looking at the pictures, that obviously it'll be a great improvement compared to what is there now.
Yeah.
I do think we have some issues, and Mark from planning, if you wouldn't mind just coming up and just talking. The other thing is, from now on, I want to make sure we have an order of when projects, because I don't want to give you, if we approve this, and then planning still has some questions, I don't want to leave you with a false impression. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so to me, from now on, and I've asked Mike Splenskowski to have a flow chart of, we have to have these projects go through an order before they get to us, instead of having it go to us and then having other questions. And so by having a kind of a checklist, that will help us, because we've had this issue, and you don't want to give you a false impression that, hey, we're good to go, and we still have some questions. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. So go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Mark Williams with the City of Fargo Planning Department. Our just concerns were that the site is pretty tight and the layout is challenging. There hasn't been a building permit review by any of the departments, and we just don't want the assumption that this approval automatically approves the permitting.
So I hope it's not discouraging to you, but I think it's important to have all those boxes checked first before we give you this indication. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
This is not on you at all. It's just that, and the other thing I would say, we have some much larger properties, but that's not, it's good to have a mix. I guess that's, if that makes sense to you, that, you know, instead of, we do have some larger capacity apartments in the area, and this is just a different kind of setup. But however, that we still have to have it fit with what our, the planning department. Does that make sense, Mark?
Sure.
I think,
And so, can you talk about the
Commissioner
stuff?
Pepcorn, though, I think the developer has been in touch with the planning department. You know, originally they were looking at 5 units and found they needed to get more to get in compliance with the land development code. So I don't know there's anything that doesn't meet the land development code. I know this may be not somebody's favorite project design, but doesn't meet the land development code. I guess that's, if that's an yes or no question, and the answer is no, then they won't be able to build it. But when it gets that site plan review, it does get down to that yes or no.
But that's, I don't want this happening anymore. I don't want this where we approve something and it hasn't already, I want us to be the last stop before it goes to the city commission.
And they have talked to the planning and engineering department, so
No, so here's what happened. I was contacted last night about this with the concerns. I don't want that to happen anymore. I want planning, I want everyone to sign off on it before it gets to us. That's what I want to have happen. And so by having a checklist, then that's what's going to happen. Because we've had this issue before, and it's not going to happen anymore. Okay? So that's the plan. So I apologize to you, but what I would like to have happen is, we'll continue this, and we'll go back to the planning department. They will come back with the concerns, and hopefully we'll get them resolved, and then it will come to us, if that's okay with you. Because I don't want us to approve something and then have it be not compatible. So does that summarize your concerns, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I apologize, and I guess that's my question for you. If we can continue this and get these resolved, is that going to set you back too much as far as your project? That's my concern.
So you're saying where there are some issues with the design still, or?
Well, so here's, it's just planning department, they
Okay.
have things, and I'm sure Mark will talk to you right after this, if that's okay with you. But after that, but I don't want us to approve something and then have still issues hanging out there. Does that make sense to you?
That makes sense to us. We are on a sort of tight deadline because we're
Yes.
looking to start this fall to be completed by August.
So I apologize to you, and we'll expedite it, but I want us to do those steps to make sure that is all good first,
Okay.
if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's
And-
Yeah, we
and we'll
appreciate
do-
your consideration.
We'll do everything we can to do it as quickly as possible, so we don't obviously delay it and push in winter and things like that, so. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, if that is your recommendation, we are happy with what you guys give
Okay.
us. Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Sure. Yeah, just a quick question on that too, knowing that they have it sounds like a tighter timeline here, and we're already, end of August? Has this committee ever, approved something under the, like doing a hypothetical condition that then everything else is completed there, not to have to wait then another month for zoning, planning and zoning to figure what they need to figure out? Let's just say that's a green light, then end of September, they come back here, and then they're another, how many more weeks? But just thinking outside the box.
The site plan review process is multi-departmental. We have fire department, engineering, planning department, and building inspections are the primary ones. An approval with conditions that they meet the site plan review for all the departments would be acceptable.
So the short answer would be to his question, we could approve it conditional on those approvals. Would that be possible?
it takes about a month to get this on the city commission agenda with the public notices, so, if this is delayed a month, it'll be another month before it's on city commission. I don't think they're gonna be able to start this fall.
One of my comments on something like that, and I don't know all the background here, but if we're gonna start doing that, and then there's material changes to the project, and then it changes all the scenarios that we get for financial investments, I think that would really start to complicate it personally.
Just, you know, I understand what we're trying to get to is we would be the last. I think we're maybe gonna hold you guys up a little bit. I don't wanna see that. So, you know, if we did look at it, and I see all the problems that when we need a clean review across all departments for approval. I would think if we wanted to do that today, we could give our approval conditioned on approval of the other departments. If not, it's gonna get kicked back and kind of go through the meat grinder again.
But I guess ideally, going forward, after this one, this will not happen anymore. Because I think this is purely our departments talking to each other. But to have a flow chart and say, has this been done yet? Has this been done yet? Then it can come to us. Does that, I don't know, does that make sense to you? So, anyway. So this is the question to you, John, since you were are you comfortable with doing this one the last time this way, or would you rather wait?
Well, again, I don't know all the dynamics of all the different departments and all the background of this particular situation, but this is a smaller property, so a 5% change in square footage might not mean as much, but a 5% change in a property that's 5 times the size of this is a lot. And it's gonna change all the financial dynamics of all of this, if there's any material changes, is all I'm stating. And again, I don't know all the background here.
That makes perfect sense too from what you, yeah.
Yeah.
from your-
So whatever the wishes are of the commission is fine with me. And
Let me take a shot at it here, is that, given this is the last time we're gonna do this, I would move conditional approval upon the review and approval of the other departments in the plan. And going forward, we'll try and reverse that order, so those are first.
Very
then
good.
it does.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? And then we can have further discussion if we have a second.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Lucas?
Yeah, just really quick. First of all, it's great to see this type of project. I think this is an awesome type of project. Gets rid of property that obviously hasn't been taken care of and turns it into something beautiful for the community. I think that's great. My question is primarily around some of the underwriting here. I see that there are some salaries earmarked within the operating expenses. I'm curious if that is something that was written into our version of the underwriting, our but-for test, to see exactly what we underwrote from like an operational expense perspective. Because typically I'm getting a little bit in the weeds, but typically for a building like this, I don't usually see 2 different salaries built into the operating expenses wholesale.
Sure.
And so I was wondering, did we underwrite it like that? Because that would materially change the return projections.
Probably a question for Matt. Are you still on?
Yeah, it'd be for Matt, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still on. I'll have to go back and look at the details of the expenditures, and you're right. If those change, then yeah, that does have a pretty good impact on the return. So just quickly looking at the report, total expenses are approximately 27% of gross operating income. That is on the low end that I have seen from projects in Fargo. And so if that were to go up, that would only decrease coverage and the internal rate of return.
And so I guess and this is a question for the committee generally, I guess we're not in the business of picking, or I guess assessing, maybe we are in the business of assessing viability of these projects, understanding that the OpEx is below what it typically would be at the 28%. And then I'm looking at, you know, the $2,800 per unit. To me, that seems, have you validated that number? Is that something that you've run comps on for the rent?
It's pretty comparable to like the bridges and stuff like that. We
Okay.
will be including all utilities within,
Gotcha.
you know.
Yeah, and parking.
well, and parking,
parking,
internet,
Yeah.
you know, all that stuff. It's not like we're gonna charge for parking, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think fundamentally as a committee, looking at this and saying, is this going to get rid of blight? Is it going to provide a better experience for our community? I think the answer is yes. Then looking at, well, is this a viable project in and of itself, right? Because the incentives that we've provided for folks to come and bring projects to us would be to drive down the return as much as possible. Right now, again, you guys are self-operating, so it's a little different dynamic as far as our return is concerned, but 8% to an investor, 4 to 8% to an investor doesn't, you know, just stick it in the market and you don't have to worry about it versus owning, operating, and managing a $1.8 million building. You know, so I don't think that's actually in our purview right now to understand that aspect of it, but it would be a question I'd volley up to the rest of the committee to discuss at some point, because the way that we do things right now, the incentive is to bring a project that seemingly, if it was outside money, would be non-viable. That being said, I think this is a good project.
Thank
It's
you.
a good-looking project, it'd be good for the community, but that is a bigger strategic question, I think that's important, so just food for thought.
Just to bounce off that as well, I'm looking at the 5-year projections here, and then where you're getting at with the FTE and part-time employee expenses, so that we aren't sure if that was built into the net income, or
Yeah,
we.
it's, if they're at 28%, that would have almost certainly had to not been built in. I mean, it does, 28% is pretty lean for a new build, especially if they're covering everything besides electrical. I'd say, you know, that's reasonable.
Yep.
If they build in $75,000 for OpEx on that, it would be higher.
Right, and I mean, all of this is pretty variable. We don't know whether we're gonna have to borrow more money, and the life insurance policy we have to pay yearly at $15,000. So it's all very variable. However, you know, and if we need to bring in more money, that's just, we're gonna have to pay back 6% on that money, you know, regardless, so.
And to play devil's advocate, you know,
Yeah.
at 1.8 for 6, that's $300 or $300,000 a door. It could very well come in below that. I mean, your fit up is very nice, and so maybe it's around that, but
Yeah.
it could swing the other way as well.
Correct.
So I'm not, yeah, I guess going back and forth on it, is it a good project for the community that gets rid of blight, and does that check our box? I think yes. Are there bigger strategic questions as a committee that we could have a conversation about? I think also yes.
Very good. Any further discussion? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 3, commercial redevelopment pilot request. Jim Gilmore will get us started with that.
You know, I think you could turn to your packet on page 31. I don't have this to put up on the screen. Maybe I can figure it out in a while, but I drafted this policy to address that request from Roars in the 45th Street project. As you know, right now, they generally have to fall into several categories. It has to be a low-income project, a blight issue, job creation, or trying to provide some, you know, housing downtown or in the core neighborhoods. This would be another policy that would allow someone that's doing commercial redevelopment to apply for a pilot of up to 10 years. Felt like, you know, there are areas in the community where you have maybe an office building that's sat vacant for 5 years. It doesn't seem to have potential. Maybe it's economically or physically obsolete. And do you want to encourage those types of buildings to be redeveloped, maybe into a better office building, maybe into a housing complex? You know, the example in Roars is you have a building that's about 25 years old, high vacancy. They're looking at adding on and building apartments, and it really doesn't fit any of our redevelopment policies. It's not a blighted area. It's you know, not trying to create new housing in the downtown or in the core neighborhoods. And so this would be a way where you'd look at trying to create some higher value and higher density buildings, maybe some opportunities for economic development, mixed-use development with shared parking, more desirable land use, and then consistent with city plans. The city adopted this plan, and so we want more infill growth. Well, it's great to adopt a plan, but if you just sit on your hands and don't do a damn thing, then you're probably not going to implement that plan. So, I'm trying to do some design. And so I put together this policy for your consideration. I'm not asking you to act on it now. I think it would be good for you to just take the next, between now and the next meeting, to take a look at it, kind of think of some scenarios. You don't want to make this too easy for everything to qualify, but you don't want to make it so hard that it doesn't really accomplish anything. So want to get your thoughts on it. I know you've only had it a few days. We weren't able to get this agenda out until yesterday. And so normally we try to get it out a week in advance. Apologize for that, trying to get the agenda out earlier. But you have it now, and I'd like to bring this back to your September meeting and look at it in more detail. And if you want to email me some comments, I can try to address those, or if you have some thoughts today, I'd be happy to hear those.
So Mark, if you would mind coming up again, this is kind of ironic, Jim, because we're obviously, our new the LDC, we're working on that right now. And so just last week, CZB was in town. And the interesting thing is we talked about this very project and to have them evaluated, because one of the things they're talking about is all the things that you just talked about. And so Mark, actually, we asked them to work on this to evaluate what would they do to make this a more efficient property. And so can you talk a little bit? And I think they're actually going to work on that. So go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Well, currently, the scope of work for CZB is to rewrite the land development code as well as our incentive policy. And a lot of the discovery of that was founded in our growth plan as far as where the city should be going in the future. In addition to that, there has been quite a bit of discovery in the initial research of the land development code to date. I know the growth plan identifies sort of high-functioning opportunities that the city should be involved for as far as incentives. In addition to that, we have neighborhood centers and city centers identified within the current growth plan. This piece of property is identified as one of those. And with that, we are trying to encourage a little bit higher standard of building and higher density, a little bit more mixed use opportunities, and therefore maybe focus some of those incentives in these spots that are identified in the existing growth plan that was approved last year. In addition to that, this also meets several other plans that we've worked on in the last several years, including our housing study and the core neighborhood plans.
So anyway, I'm sorry for picking out things, but I just think this is kind of ironic but this is exactly, before we offered them any incentives, we want to have them follow what we're trying to accomplish. And so literally this picture, they showed us what it could look like if we, followed our new philosophies. And so it's kind of an opportunity, I think, to hopefully in the real world, for us to use incentives possibly down the road if they kind of fit what we were trying to accomplish in the future. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of, it was kind of ironic because literally he showed us a picture of a property, how you can change it to make it fit into the increased density and all the things we're trying to accomplish. So, all right. I'm sorry for rambling so much, but to me, we have an important job and to make sure we use this money correctly, and I think we do our best to do that, and so that's an opportunity. So, go ahead.
So Dave, was the intent that they were going to take this actual project, this specific project, and rework it with the new development code, or excuse me, the new master plan in mind?
Well, when I was sitting at the meeting, that was my intention anyway, because we literally they were showing us a before and after, and it wasn't this exact, but I think we could request them to say, hey, what would this look like with following the new guidelines? So does that make sense, Mark? Or was I sitting in the meeting and going in a whole different direction, which happens all the time? Go ahead, Mark.
No, it absolutely makes sense. Our current land development code right now, we're struggling with some of the zoning categories are available to us based on the current trends of development. And it's not a really by right process. It has to go through a permission of different commissions to get approval. And the findings of the core neighborhood plan, the growth plan, is more going back to that by right approval, the way it was when the original land development code was approved. With this, I would suggest that, anything that we can do to maybe get this project going forward, we should do, because of the fact that it is consistent with our plans. And I think our incentive policy rewrite will catch up to this in time. It would be my goal, this proposal on 45th and roughly Main Avenue is an extremely complex building. There's many different land uses that can be very compatible together. But if you add some other of those land uses in there, it's not going to be very compatible. So it would be my goal to be able to create a zoning district in the land development code that would actually allow this structure by right through site plan review, through the different departments.
So literally, we're working on this right now, and so this new land development code isn't going to be done till the middle of next year. So a lot of this, and I appreciate Jim putting this on for us to start thinking about it and discussing it, but some of this is, and this project is not going to be approved in the near future, but to me, this is an opportunity to real world incorporate the new things and show what it could look like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, really, we're incentivizing that high functioning proposals within our community that we really want to see, and focusing those incentives more specific, and kind of getting them a little bit more by right too.
So anyway, this is something, this is not going to be happening in the near future, but I think to have this project going on, this is kind of an opportunity to see how it works in the real world, if that makes sense. Anything else? You guys are all looking at me like this guy talks too much, which is not new, but the new land development code is going to be very life-changing for our city, and it's going to change things, and so this is, it's exciting. So, Jim, do you have any comments? Go ahead.
I'll bring this back again if you want to address this policy now, or if you just want to wait until the land development code is done in a year, and then, have this project wait for a year and go through the site plan review process.
Well, my perspective is, I think we should be discussing it, but we want to make sure it's compatible with the new land development code. And so we can do both at once, I think. Any other comments? Lucas?
Just to get a little bit more specific, I couldn't agree more. We have these growth plans. Now we need to put kind of the money where the mouth is to say we are going to incentivize those growth plans using our incentives. We've had that conversation many times. The one component of this in particular would be how we define high vacancy or economically obsolete buildings, which, Jim, I'm sure that would come out in the wash. We would figure that out. But just so that people have that playbook that we've discussed so many times to say, if the vacancy is this, and your building meets this level of economic obsolescence, then, by right, you're going to get this type of incentive.
Yeah.
And so that will allow developers to plan and to target a little bit more strategically. But I love this. If it's in line with our growth plan and it fits with the land use, we shouldn't be in the way of folks making it happen and helping reimagine our city, so.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll move on. Thank you very much, and I apologize for calling on you so much, Mark.
No worries. Thank you.
That's the risk you take when you come into the meeting. Okay, and Jim, you had one more item on the agenda?
Yeah, this is a, see if this loads. This is a proposal, a pilot project that we had. It'd be for a low-income project. This is, used to be an 89er apartment building there, then NSP owned the property and cleaned it up, dug it all up, and so now it's just grass. They've applied for, let me see if I can, oops. You kind of see it would be all main floor parking. Kind of see there'd be some courtyards. Won't go into this too much. You can kind of see the exterior. It'd be a larger project. Originally, they were talking about applying for some low-income housing tax credits, these 4% credits, but if you turn to the second page of the, my handout that I gave you, it's not what you'd consider, low-income rents. The rents would vary from almost $1,200 from a one-bedroom to $1,600 from a three-bedroom. These are pretty close to a lot of market rents that already exist downtown, so typically with the low-income ones, we haven't done the but-for test. In this one, it seems more like a downtown housing project, that whether or not they would meet a but-for test. The other thing, and visiting with Lucas on it, when you look at the overall costs of the project for 262 units, they've got total uses here of 93 million, including 34 million in soft costs. And so this definitely needs some sort of financial review, I think, before you'd want to, consider whether or not to provide this with some sort of pilot incentive, because it doesn't get at some of that real low-income housing needs that we have. So that was one of my thoughts. They've also applied for the Renaissance Zone, and I guess in keeping with what Commissioner Pepcorn's comments, this hasn't gone through a site plan review process, so I think we should probably just put this one on hold. I know they're trying to apply this fall, but realistically, this is going to have to wait a year, I think, before there's any time to do a proper evaluation on the application. I just want to mainly let you know that this is in here. I think it needs at least a but-for test, but if you want to do the site plan review first, I can certainly have them planning and engineering do that. It will be on the Renaissance Zone Authority, though, coming up.
So this kind of goes all together, because I think we've had this issue where the Renaissance Zone Authority will approve something, and that hasn't gone through. So I would like to have this flow chart include that too, to make sure we have all the departments approve it before it goes to these other things. So I think sometimes we're giving people a false sense that the project is getting a thumbs up and they still have other things. And that being said, this is fantastic. I mean, it's obviously adding a lot more capacity within the downtown area, which is good. That's what we wanted to have, is more density. But to me, all those things, to me, the first thing is to make sure staff, planning, all those things have gone through this, and then do the other things, if that makes sense. But that's why Mike is not looking too happy with me, because this sounds like more homework, but I want to have a flow chart where it goes through and we have everything in order. So once the developers come and get a green light from us, then it goes on to the commission, then they know it's good. And they don't have to have a delay, because I think we're giving them a false sense of security, and that's not what we should do. So that being said, I apologize for talking so much, but this site was old power plant. Can you talk a little bit about that? And it's been sitting to make sure it's cleaned up. So go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, I think it's appropriate for redevelopment. The question is this site appropriate? I think this would likely qualify for the Renaissance Zone. I think it's unlikely that, given those costs and given the rents, that it's going to qualify for a pilot.
But I had one more question. You talked about, so this is not qualify as low-income housing though, correct? It would be kind of market rate housing?
This looks like market rate. Those rents are market rate. You can
Right.
find apartments downtown for those costs.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Lucas.
I'm just curious, are they attempting to get low-income housing tax credits with it? Do you know?
Yeah, they're applying for 4% low-income housing tax credits from the state. Those aren't as valuable as the 9%. I think they're also applying for some housing incentive funds, and I'm not sure it's the best use of the funds, but it's the state's decision.
Sure. Yeah, similar to the other low-income housing tax credit stuff we looked at a few months ago. I mean, the per unit cost on these is extremely high as compared to normal market housing, and the rents are at market. At market. So, to Jim's point, we'll see when it comes up again. But when I see almost $1 million in architecture expenses, that's 10%, which is typically the entire general contractor's fee for a project like this. I start asking some questions as to why things are that high.
Yeah, this came up in our last discussion, and just doing some basic math, this is over $350,000 a unit, which is a lot. in my opinion.
That's why you smart guys are on here to have this all done. So this is just a discussion, and I appreciate it, and it's an interesting project. And then just one more thing, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I added a laydown, Mike made copies of this, it's for your information. It's the West Fargo School District within the city of Fargo. And to me, that's, John Cosgrove was talking about this is an issue that needs to be addressed, and we don't know for sure how it's going to be addressed, but when you look at what we do, and then it's benefiting the West Fargo School District, that it just doesn't make sense. And so some of this was long before we were around, but we need to make some changes because this can't continue. So, and I know, I don't want to get anybody in any hot water, but John, you could sure make some comments, but it was initially started to help the West Fargo School District because they were, it was a small town. And so with West Acres, this was a long time ago. And now we're subsidizing the West Fargo schools with Fargo properties. And so anyway. So we'll see what happens, but go ahead, John.
No, it goes all the way back to when this first occurred. The concept, I believe, was to allow a consolidation of the two school districts, not to keep a school district inside the city limits of another city. And that's never happened. But yeah, you have a lot of sort of conflict areas. And, the discussion about the convention center, the tax supporting that was voted in by the city of Fargo. And so a hotel not in the city of Fargo would not be paying the tax it's going to support the convention center. So it's a dilemma, and it's one I think deserves some consideration, that the consolidation of school districts. Boy, that's touching the third rail, but something that at least needs to be surfaced and talked about.
But it's very interesting, and I know we don't have the map up, but just to kind of give you a rough outline of it, it basically runs along the interstate for a lot, and so it divides the city of Fargo. So everything on the west side of the interstate is West Fargo School District, and so I just wanted everyone to see it, and I do think, my prediction is we'll see some discussion about this and some changes in the future, because that's just what it was, the way it was set up, whatever, 40 years ago, is not, that's not what should be going on now. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully we'll get some changes down the road. So any other comments or questions? Jim, do you have any comments?
No, we'll let you get going a little early today.
Anything else? Otherwise, thank you, everybody, and we are adjourned. Have a good afternoon.